with freelance writer Gabe Salgado. We have our man Gabe Salgado in the house. He's in from hibernation. Gabe, are you there, Gabe?
Yeah,
Gabe,
I'm here. I'm here. Below zero weather, it's pretty tough to come out of hibernation after that.
Tell me, man, wasn't it cold? It's funny because like when it hits zero, like 20 below, and then the next day it's like 20 degrees. It's like balmy outside.
Yeah, I'd say that's just Chicago for you. I mean, like we only have 2 seasons, summer and winter. There really is no in between.
Yeah, it's amazing. I remember when I was little, more blizzards, just being like actually having a fall, like cooling, leaves changing colors a little more gradually. I don't know. It is, but as a kid though, you kind of think romantically in the past. So maybe it wasn't all that good in the past. Maybe I'm just thinking it was that good. I don't know.
And I mean, I remember having some pretty cold days going through high school and stuff. I mean, I'll never forget the blizzard of '99. They were expecting us to go to school like the day after all the snow fell, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not risking my life just to get on the bus to go to school. No, thank you.
Man, my parents made me go to school, man. We never missed a day of school. It was always on my bus. That's another thing. I have a car these days, so I'm not on the CTA. So like cold weather back then was different because I was catching the L, catching the bus home. You're constantly outside. Now I'm in a car with a heater, So maybe it's just that.
Oh, back then I was back when that blizzard came, I was taking public transportation too, but it's like a 30-minute walk just to get from where my mother lives to the nearest train, and I'm just like, yeah, no, not when there's 3 feet of snow on the ground. I'm good.
Yeah, 30-minute walk is not it's not cool at all, man. So man, let me ask you, man, have you watched a lot of football? It's been like an orgy of football going on. Orgy. Have you been enjoying the games?
Well, I got to tell you, it's disappointing to see the Bears not in the playoffs. But then again, maybe that's a blessing in disguise because with that defense, they probably would have gotten bounced out in the first round anyway. But they got rid of Mike Fair on the defensive line coach. They got rid of the linebackers coach. Can't remember his name offhand. I honestly feel those guys were used as scapegoats, but the plan is to let Mel Tucker run the defense that he wanted to run. This year they had him running Lovie Smith's defense because everybody was familiar with it, but you're going to have some new faces on defense next year, so it's probably important that you let Mel Tucker do his thing. The offense is good to go. They just got to make sure everybody's under contract. They got Cutler. They just got to get Garza and a few other guys. Now it's just about shoring up the defense to get back into the swing of things. I know that it's not good when you go 8-8 and 10-6 in back-to-back years and miss the playoffs, but I think it's a building block to look forward to for the future.
Yeah, and go back to the culture that they decided to keep Mel Tucker, like you mentioned before, and they fired 2 coaches. Yeah, it was a guy Tibesar and Mike Fair, I believe,
yeah.
defensive line coach, and the linebackers coach Tibesar. Now they weren't. They were, one was a freshman guy and one was a Lovey guy. So Mel Tucker didn't have anything to do with them people, his coaching staff, too much.
Well, now it'll be interesting to see, will they let Mel Tucker bring in his own guys, or will Trestman and general manager Phil Emery look to the outside? Obviously, if they're making a change at the position coach, they're obviously going to look for someone who probably has a little more experience and background at the NFL level, and that's probably what is good for the Bears. There's also, the possibility of the Bears perhaps maybe switching to a 3-4 and moving Shea McClellan outside linebacker, which will probably be better for him because, being down to the 3-point stance just hasn't worked for him. So, the offseason is going to be very interesting. It's going to see where, the pieces to the puzzle go. It's going to be interesting to see how everything, comes together by the time the draft and minicamp starts. So, it's just getting warm for the Bears. So, just keep your eyes out because things are going to change and there's going to be some pieces moved around and there's the deck's going to get shuffled, so to speak.
Yeah, you mentioned, of course, a lot of changes the Bears are going to endure this off season and next year. I was wondering, during these playoffs, I'm watching these teams play, and I'm trying to figure out like the difference between the Bears and the teams in playoffs. Yes, the defense sucked. We were like bottom 3. Of course, that prevented us going to the playoffs. But I wonder how well we fared in the playoffs against New Orleans or some of these other playoff teams. Can you just give me your perspective about where the Bears are when you watch these playoff games now? These playoff teams that can run and defend as well, and compare them to like the Bears, and maybe to like where do the Bears have to be next year compared to those teams that are now in the playoffs?
Well, they played, a couple of these teams in the regular season. We all saw what happened with Green Bay. I mean, really the only reason why they won that first game was because they were able to knock out Aaron Rodgers and disrupt the timing of the offense. Aaron Rodgers comes back, they win the game, they catch the Bears defense on a bad day. The New Orleans Saints, same thing. They're a really good offensive team. The Bears struggled, Bears struggled to tackle them. Bears struggled to cover them. The offense is going to score some points, don't get me wrong. But the defense is going to be the Achilles heel and would be the Achilles heel if the Bears are in the playoffs this year. New Orleans could probably put up a lot of points on them. Green Bay could probably put up a lot of points on them. San Francisco, can the Bears, can they stop Colin Kaepernick in the read option? Can they stop Frank Gore? How can they go up against Cam Newton? So really it's all about, what the defense can and can't do against some of these teams.
We are joined by a freelance writer, Gabe Salgado, freelance writer. He's everywhere. Any Chicago sports website, he's probably written on. The man has a YouTube channel. The man Shot City, anything that's Chicago.com sports or something, he's probably written an article for. My man, freelance writer, Gabe Salgado, joined Bawl today. We appreciate him coming through. Gabe, to touch more on bases on this Bears team, a lot of decisions have to be made. I'm don't know what's going to happen. I'm still personally, I'm not sure if Tucker is the guy, but not only deciding maybe your defensive coach, who's going to be this upcoming season, you got that out the way. The Bears have a lot of things that need to be done, a lot of changes on the defense. How does this front office prioritize? There's some things you have to do, right? You just have to do these 5 things. We have to do these other 5 things. We could get by. Maybe we could skip these things. What are some maybe the key top priorities the Bears should be focusing on defense next year?
Defensive line for starters, because everyone knows that it always starts with the guys up front. There's guys who are free agents. You got Henry Melton and Nate Collins coming off the injury. Will they get re-signed? Will they be healthy if they're re-signed? Will the Bears bring back Jeremiah Ratliff? What's going to happen with Corey Wooten? Corey Wooten just actually had hip surgery this week, so now the question is, how healthy will he be when the Bears start practicing in the spring and working out in the summer and everything? So he's going to be a big question mark too. So it all starts with the defensive line. How many guys can you bring back? Are you going to have to draft guys? Where does everybody fit? Where does Shea McClellan fit into all this? And you could also throw Shea McClellan in the linebackers question as well. Will John Bostic and Kasim Green be ready to go a full season? Their rookie year was definitely some growing pains. They were thrown to the wolves pretty much, because of injuries and everything else. And, they struggled. They did show some flashes of brilliance at times, but, overall they did struggle. What will happen with James Anderson and DJ Williams? What will happen with Blake Costanzo? The linebackers position, that's definitely going to be something that's going to be a question mark too. Number 3 is going to have to be the safety position. And I got to be honest with you, in Lovie Smith's final year as coach, you didn't really see how bad Major Wright and Chris Conte actually were because of the guys they had up in front of them with the front 7 and the corners they had on each side of them. With Charles Tillman injured and with Lance Briggs injured, DJ Williams, James Anderson, a subpar defensive line, we kind of really saw just how weak and how, what Conte and Wright were lacking from a fundamental standpoint because they didn't have that protection up front for them anymore. So now they're trying to stop the run more, and then because of that, they're out of position in the pass game. So, the question is, do you give them another year to prove themselves, or you just cut your losses and move on, next man up? Number 4 would have to be what's going to happen with Charles Tillman. Are they going to have the money to bring him back? Will they keep him as a corner? Will they move him to safety? The good thing is they got Tim Jennings, but Charles Tillman's going to be a very big question mark as to where he fits in. Number 5, I'm honestly going to have to say special teams. Aside from Robbie Gould, the rest of the unit didn't perform that well this year. They were bad in kick returning. They were bad in punt returning. Adam Podolish seemed to struggle at times, couldn't really get enough velocity and distance on his punts, So those would be the 5 question marks that the Bears have to worry about coming into the offseason.
So good points there. I do know that early in the season, it was a plan for these rookie linebackers to get a bunch of time on the field. I was reading that that Schwartzman praised Tucker's like first 3 games in the season. Because, the defense was healthy and, he said, well, those 3 games they played well with gospel fields, I guess. And so he's basing, basing his decision to keep Tucker on the first 3 games of the season where the team defensively was healthy and looked pretty good against Cincinnati. I don't know. 3 games, people get injured, but, sometimes you should be judged on what you do when you're facing adversity. Can you adjust? Can you, fix things on the fly? And he didn't come through.
And exactly, but the indication that the Bears are giving by keeping Mel Tucker, they're giving him 1 more year to show that he can turn this defense around. Obviously the injuries didn't help, but again, if he was able to do his job to the ability that we were all led to believe he could, then he would have found a way to work through the injuries, and the defense still would have been able to stop the run. They wouldn't have been able to cover guys. They wouldn't have given up so many points, and obviously that didn't happen. It just seems like as the season went on, the defense just got worse and worse, and it really just, there wasn't any progress. It was a regression, as a matter of fact, and definitely a step back from what we were accustomed to under Lovie Smith. And I honestly wouldn't have minded to see the Bears actually, get rid of Mel Tucker and bring back Lovie Smith as a defensive coordinator, not as a head coach, but perhaps a defensive coordinator, so that way he can instill that attitude and the ability to make turnovers and everything else that we were so accustomed to seeing this defense do before everything fell apart.
Yeah, but that has not happened in a million years, my friend. He is not. Man got a head coaching job.
Exactly.
He's moving on.
Exactly, but it's nice to dream.
Oh yes, it is nice to dream because when that ball was laying in the middle of the field and no one picked it up, I immediately texted Big Dave. I said, "Hey man, I miss Lovie Smith right now because I know good and well if that was a Lovie Smith team, that fumble in Green Bay would not have stayed on the ground so long. Someone would have picked it up and into the end zone."
In all honesty, there's a part of me that feels that was still an incomplete pass. I'm going to tell you why. Yes, Aaron Rodgers did lose the ball briefly, but he did move his arm forward, and his arm did push the ball forward. So I felt that there's still a chance that could have been ruled an incomplete pass.
Hey, you can't take chances, my friend. It's been a do or die. It's literally a do or die game.
Well, do or die came when Chris Conte just let Randall Cobb run right by him. That's let's just say that I kind of let out a few words that we probably no, it's the internet. We can swear on the show, right? It's the internet. Well,
it's the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to, there's probably women and children listening, but I let out a few F-bombs after that play happened. I mean, that was very frustrating to watch. I mean, Conte he just stood there, and it's just like, when you're a safety, your responsibility in that situation, you see a guy running out there by himself, your job is to get down there and cover him. And, Conte, for whatever reason, he must have assumed he had help over the top, but obviously that wasn't the coverage that they called. They blitzed the entire front 7, and the defensive backs were spread out across the field, and they were all supposed to jump into man coverage. And for whatever reason, Conte must have thought they were in zone or Tampa or something, because he just let Randall Cobb run right by him. That was his opportunity to redeem his entire miserable season, and he didn't deliver.
Yeah, it's funny because, first of all, on that play, Julius Peppers didn't contain, but we will get back to Peppers. I want to discuss whether or not he should be coming back. But Bears going to cut him or restructure his contract. But on that particular play, though, even if Peppers contained, Cobb would still been open anyway. And I think Conte said he didn't get the call. But even if he didn't get the call, you should be able to observe what's going on around you. That's what you get paid to do, right? Be a safety. If everyone's playing man, you should say, "Hey, wait a minute. My man should not run by me."
Well, if you take a look at the replay, you could see you could see that Chris Conte just looked at Randall Cobb as he was making his way down the field. I mean, right then and there, your instinct should kick in and just say, "Holy crap, that's my man," and nobody's covering him. So just get down there. I mean, and even like you said, they could have contained Aaron Rodgers, but as you see, Zach Bowman tried to get down there at the last second. So maybe if they could have contained Rodgers a little while longer, maybe Bowman could have had a chance to get down there to make the play. But that's not here or there. But Conte just had a mental fart basically. He just completely broke down in coverage and just didn't really seem to grasp what was going on, and then obviously it cost the Bears season. But again, even if the Bears did make the playoffs, they weren't going to win the Super Bowl. You need a defense if you're going to win a championship, and the Bears just didn't have that this year. And, just like how you were saying, after that fumble, you miss Lovie Smith. Heck, I also miss Brian Urlacher.
Mm-hmm.
I also miss, some of the players over the years that really, made this defense what it was. And, the Bears on the defensive side of the ball were just a shell of their former selves.
Yeah, one player that we all love that we may miss next year is Tillman. It's hard to find a tall, fast guy to guard these receivers out here. Jennings is a good, is a good player, but he's relatively short. You need somebody kind of tall and lengthy to battle these tough receivers like a Calvin Johnson, for instance. If he's not here, man, that's another defensive player you have to kind of go out there and search for in the draft. To find a tall DB to go out there and take him a spot if he leaves the Bears.
Well, the first thing it's going to boil down to is money. Will the Bears have enough to offer him, and will Tillman take whatever they offer him? The second thing that it comes down to is how healthy will Tillman be? When he first went down, they put him on injured reserve with the possibility of returning, and the possibilities didn't return. For whatever reason, he really struggled in his recovery from his injury, and it just didn't happen. And, obviously the Bears missed him out there on the field. And another thing you got to remember too, he's above the 30-year-old mark. Mm-hmm. And it's, how many years does he have left in him? Can the Bears afford to give him a 5, 6, 7-year contract, considering his age?
Yeah. Another contract we have to concern ourselves with as fans is, my man Julius Peppers led the team in sacks with 6. Now he's the team leader in sacks with 6. He was paid a lot of money. Obviously, he didn't kind of earn his contract this year. What do you see the Bears doing with Peppers? Are they cutting him, or are they restructuring his contract? Can he get more money out there? Will another team pay him more money, or what's going on with him?
Well, I'm sure, if anything, they'll try to see if they can restructure his contract first. I mean, obviously, if you take a look at Julius Peppers, he obviously was not healthy this year. And for whatever reason, he does not would admit to anything being wrong with him. You see how slow he is out there on the field. Mm-hmm. He's not shedding blocks. He's not putting pressure on the quarterback. How he did manage to get a few sacks this year was beyond me, considering how poor he played. So it's a matter of, one, will he stay for less money? And two, is he healthy? He's on that wrong side of 30 as well. He's been playing since 2002. So we're talking, 11, 12 seasons that he's been playing in the National Football League, and he's playing on the line of scrimmage, which, you get contact on every play. So you're going to get your bumps and bruises. You're going to be sore after every game. So it's just a matter of, can he prove that he's healthy? Can he still play at a high level? And, obviously, if the Bears are going to make the changes that they need to make on defense, they're going to have to get him to, take a pay cut. He did restructure his contract slightly in training camp, but they're going to need him to shed a little more money if they're going to be able to shore up the team. If not, they're just going to have to cut him, and they're just going to have to pay him the $8 million or whatever the figure is that he's due should they cut him.
Yeah, it's all flashes, and you mentioned Corey. Corey said actually he should be healthy at the beginning of the year. Let's hope so. But yeah, we need Peppers to play well if he does come back with the Bears. At times he did look. You watched him at times. You saw him like when he put effort into it. He actually, owned the player in front of him. But then there were times where you could tell like he couldn't go all out for some reason. I don't know. I like Peppers, but it's unfortunate when he leads your team in sacks with 6. That's not a good thing.
I will say this, though. If the Bears do end up switching to a 3-4 like it's being reported out there, does Julius Peppers fit in a 3-4? He's not exactly your ideal 3-4 lineman. Stephen Paya would be a 3-4 guy. Henry Melton could be a 3-4 guy if they bring him back. Jeremiah Ratliff began his career in a 3-4. Maybe you could throw Nate Collins in there as well. I don't know if Julius Peppers would fit in a 3-4. And if so, how would you use him, especially considering, his lack of production and, he's getting up there in age. So it'll be interesting to see how that would all work out should the Bears switch to a 3-4. But ultimately it boils down to his health and if he's willing to take less money, because that's going to be a necessity if the Bears are going to rebuild on defense.
All right, Gabe, real quick, up against the time a little bit here, but I want to get your kind of thoughts about what's going on in the conference. Detroit just hired a new coach, Caldwell. They're great team, of course. People say, a lot of talent on defense and offense, but they don't have a coach to kind of steer them the right way. That's a team to fear next year. That you don't think they'll get better. You have Green Bay and Rodgers getting healthier, and some Green Bay's the defensive players getting healthier. 88, that can't cut it next year, can it, Gabe?
Probably not. But again, you got to understand, the Detroit Lions hiring Jim Caldwell. The question is, can the players adapt to his system? Now, remember, Jim Caldwell, before Detroit, he was the offensive coordinator in Baltimore, and he was the head coach in Indianapolis after Tony Dungy stepped down. And he's used to playing for he's used to coaching offensively minded teams. So now the question is, how will he utilize the talent on defense? Can he get it all to come together, considering that he's mostly an offensive-minded coach? As for Minnesota, they have some rebuilding to do as well, probably more than the Bears. They have good cornerstones to build around in Adrian Peterson and Cordell Patterson, the wide receiver kick returner. And, what are they going to do with the quarterback position? They're probably going to have to make some changes on defense, maybe move some guys around. Green Bay, if everybody's healthy next year, they're still a threat to win the division. So, really, aside from Green Bay, the rest of the division has question marks on it, because the question mark for the Bears is how are they going to look on defense, and can they get better on special teams?
Come on, middle of the road defense, baby. Gets us in the playoffs. It gets us in the dance. Because our offense, like you mentioned before, our offense is in the playoff. It's playoff ready. The offense. It's just the defense, my friend. Just the defense.
Exactly, and the defense definitely has its work cut.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay, exactly, and the defense does have its work cut out for them.
All right, my man Gabe. Thanks for coming on the show. Gabe Salgado, freelance writer, man about town, man, covers everything from chicken fights, pro fights, college basketball, and I don't know, man. You do everything. Call you the peanut man.
Don't forget squirrel races too.
Squirrel races too. But yeah, that's right. You flew to the Congo. They do something to watch the squirrel race go down. Yeah, okay.
There's a lot of money in those squirrel races, my friend.
You can also find my man Gabe at Gabe Salgado82 on Twitter. That's at Gabe Salgado82 on Twitter. Gabe, thanks for coming out again. I hope you everything's together, man. We can have you on the show. We'll have you on the show more often like we used to. We missed you.
Hopefully I'll be around a little bit more in 2014.
All right, Gabe. Thanks a lot,
All
man.
right.
And that was our interview with freelance writer Gabe Salgado, our cleanup man, our Mr. Everything. Football, Dave.
Foot to the bow.